Hello. Hope everyone is going well. Having another crack at a live stream tonight. Just waiting for our guests to join. Hey Taylor. Hey Bruz. Hey PPA. It's going to be going live on some of our other platforms too. So just signing on. Hopefully Glen should be joining in a minute. Just setting everything up. So just waiting for Glen to jump. Hope everyone's day has been well. Been pretty busy working. Got a good running this morning, which was good. Pumped out 10Ks, got a PB. So not bad at all. Just done a lot of work. It's good. Only finished just before this live, so started about 10. Hung out at Mum's this morning, got that run in. Got a few people on here jumping in, checking in. See my dad. How you going, Dad? On Insta. Hey Kylie, how you going? So me and my dad do a lot of work together with survivors of institutional child abuse. We help them to seek justice, start healing, and possible compensation. And the way that me and my father started this company was that we both went through institutional child abuse. We've both been through prison systems, been involved in gangs, drugs, alcohol. We fucked up for a lot of times in our lives. We've both been to prison and both know what it's like to have survived. So yeah, just still waiting for Glen to jump in. Not too sure if he wanted me to join his or I'd join his. On the ATFJ page you can't hear. Very low. I was probably speaking a little bit low. I've just turned it up. Can you hear better now on the About Time for Justice page? Yeah? Is it still low, Jen? Just making sure everything's going okay. Still low, eh? I don't know. Maybe I'll try and move the speaker over a little bit closer. I don't know where Glen is. I hope he's alright. Should be joining in soon. Hopefully. Might just see if he's... I don't know where he is. Hopefully you can jump in. We'll have to kick it off soon. Sorry guys, a few tech issues. It's always the way. Hopefully we should have Glen in a second. You having trouble hearing, Anita? Okay. It should be fine on my end. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I might just start have a bit of a yarn. Um, see if he's going to jump on shortly. I think that he will. We're just trying to. Sometimes, you know, when the tech with all it can be hard. Oh, here he is.
Uh-huh.
Hey, brother.
Hey, bud, how you doing?
Yeah, not much. Just had a feed. Yeah.
Yeah, I did too. I just went and got some Thai food with my son. Nearly got run over by a bike walking up the
Oh
stairs,
shit.
and my son's here and I'm behind him. And I just go to step out, and this young fella comes flying down on his mountain bike down the stairs. And like,
Yeah.
I came out, what the heck are you doing, mate? And then I realised he was only about 15 or 16. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, mate. You know, but it was a lesson for two of us. Lesson for me not to be an old man going cranky at people, and a lesson for him not to ride downstairs and nearly kill old people.
Yeah, that's right. Lucky you got a hood pass.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. Yeah. So, what have you been up to today?
Not a lot, mate. Today's been a pretty quiet one. My son went to Para. I haven't done much at all, actually. I don't know if you know, but I run pages for NRL. So I've been writing out stats today. I've got to do a pod after this, as you know, for I do on Facebook running stats for NRL for fantasy sport, Supercoach and stuff. So
Oh, do
I
you?
run. Yeah, it's got nearly 2K people in our page. It's growing really rapidly, and yeah, I've done pretty successful at it. So and one of my sons has come ninth twice, which is incredible out of 156,000 people.
Holy shit. Hopefully, there's plenty of Knights fans in there.
Yeah, I'm a Tigers fan, mate. So I just I'm so done with my club. It's not funny.
Yeah. Fuck. Knights aren't going too well. I think we had a couple this year. I don't know how we went on the weekend, but how you going?
Tigers, we lost.
Did you?
Four losses or five. Just give me 1 second. Hey, listen, there's anyone out there that wants to be a mod for me tonight? So if we get any nonsense in the chat, we can get someone that can police it, if that's for want of a better word. Hey, mate, how you going? Can I just
Yeah.
get someone to agree to be a mod? I'm here, mate. How are you? I will. Okay, thanks, Tarsi. Awesome. Oh, Tarsi just got my book as well. How
Oh
do I
yeah.
do this? Add as moderator. There we go. Confirm. Legend. Thanks,
Yeah. So.
Tarsi. Much appreciate it. And I'll get one more here, just so we got two. So
Yep.
sorry, mate.
Okay.
It's
No,
just so
no.
because sometimes when we're talking about the topic that we're talking about, there's always a goose that comes in and has something silly to say, you know. And although it doesn't trigger me now, well, not as much as it would. I'm worried that the people that we've got in here, it could trigger them, and you know, it's about protecting everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
So
for
what's the
sure.
plan, mate?
Pardon,
So what's the plan? What do you got me here for?
mate. I just wanted to just bring awareness to your book. Firstly,
Okay.
and also, I've seen that you've been putting out some stuff on TikTok. So
Yep.
the way I've sort of heard about you wasn't through your book, Predator's Paradise, but it was through your TikTok because you
Oh,
put
is that
out,
right?
put out stuff
Geez, it's a
on
great
TikTok.
medium. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a very good platform for getting the truth out there. You know, like Facebook and Twitter is not as handy. I don't think it's a lot more reach.
yeah. Well, yeah, I only done my first live stream on the weekend, and that feedback that I got from that first live stream was just like ridiculous. Like I've been doing lives for a while, like Facebook, Instagram, whatnot. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, just the feedback and the comments and the people that are engaging. I had like 4 or 5 survivors reach out on my first post. So yeah,
Okay.
if anyone's looking to watch this live stream, because I'm living from our About Time for Justice Facebook, Instagram, and our YouTube channel. But if you want to jump on so you can watch both of our ugly heads, you can jump on at the TikTok for About Time for Justice, or yours is Tigers for Life 66,
Yeah, that's right. Tiger for life.
or
Yep.
Tiger for Life, and that's four, as in number four.
Yep.
So if anyone wants to jump on there and give us either us a follow so you can see both of our melons, more than welcome to jump on. But we'll just keep going on the way that we are. So
And I apologise for my melon before you get on. I got a head like a beaten favourite these days.
uh, yeah, mate. So I've done a little bit of research on your book. I haven't read it, but I want to get some copies of it.
Okay.
So we'll hook that up afterwards. But I do know a little bit about your story. Um, but yeah, would you mind sharing a little bit about your story and how you grew up and you know?
Okay. So I grew up in the Mount Druitt area from the early ages. We moved to Mount Druitt when I was, I don't know, about 5 or 6.
Yep.
Around, I have a lot of memories of my Uncle Pat and my dad around sexual contact, between me and his children, my Uncle Pat's children. But it was around about the age of 7 when I came home from school one day. There was a bull wagon out the front of my house, and my
Yeah.
dad was being taken away to jail. And that night, the next day, my mother was also put into psychiatric care. But before going, she put us into an orphanage called Lewisham. And she got out a few weeks later, and she got out 2 of the younger siblings, but she left myself there and the brother just in me in age. And when we got out, I went back to my mum's. There was a lot of violence that happened. So in the family home, my mother was a heroin addict, alcoholic. She suffered with schizophrenia, and she once attacked me with a knife, like so severe she tried literally to sever 2 of my fingers. And I remember sitting on the bathroom floor after that happening with my shirt off, wrapped around my fingers, in shock. Like I've just been attacked by a knife with my mum. She'd done a lot of sadistic stuff to me before, but never on that level. That was the first time it'd been taken to that level. It was followed up by her going through a window not long after and getting over 100 stitches in each of her arms. It was quite brutal and violent, her schizophrenia and the violence in the house. And then at 9 is when I went through a brutal attack by Uncle Pat. I don't want to
Yeah.
elaborate on that, but you know what I'm saying. And then around the age of 10 is when I moved to the Central Coast with my dad. It was actually my dad, who was a piece of crap as well, who spoke to Docs and said, if you leave him with her, he'll kill her. She'll kill me. Like you
Yeah.
need to get him out of there. And but my dad was a nasty bit of work as well. So I started running away from home, around the
Yeah.
ages of 11 and 12. I ended up first in an institution called Warramai up in Newcastle. It was a remand centre. And then I remember I was there for a bit, and I tried to escape, almost escaped, and then I decided not to on a hospital
Yeah.
visit. And then they gave me 18 months probation. I ran away again, and I went to Yasma with my brother.
Yeah.
And then this third time I ran away, they put us in Yasma again, but this time the rules were different. So they changed it that even though I was under a junior age, they put me on
Yeah.
the senior side and my brother on the junior side. And then they sent him
Yeah.
to Reeby and they sent me to Darrick
Mm.
Boys Home. The only crime I did was run away. I hadn't done anything else other than running away from home. And for me, that institution, I was 13, everyone else was 14, 15. I remember getting off the bus and seeing kids with beards and facial hair that was 6 foot tall, and I was like, where am I, man? Like, I'm a little tiny boy. And sadly for me, I looked like a girl. I was a lot smaller than other kids, and I was effeminate kind of looking. So I was subjected to a lot of sexual innuendo the whole time I was there by other kids. I had an
Yeah.
incident where I got up to go to the ablutions one night in Darrick. You used to have to get out of bed and stomp beside your bed and stand at ease. And I remember
Yeah.
standing at the bed, and finally, about 15 minutes later, passes and Mr. Buellens, the officer there, ushers me to
Yeah.
go to the ablution. I went to the ablution, and I was followed by a kid who tried to attack me at the trough. I managed to get away from him. And the thing that I remember very clearly was as I got around him and come out of the ablution and turned right, Buellens was watching. He could see what was going on, and he had not intervened at all. And
Yeah.
that night, that kid came to my bed, and I don't want to elaborate again, but it was brutal. It was graphic, and no mercy from other kids. Nobody seemed to. It was just normal behaviour for other kids to be attacking other kids, And
Mm.
anyway, I got out of Jarrick, and this is where things get really insane. I get sent back to my dad. I run away again, but this time I go to Docs. I literally go to Mount Druitt Docs, and I say, look, I don't want to go back to an institution. My mother and father are hurting me. I'm sick of being hurt, like help me. So they
Yeah.
said, look, we
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
put you in foster care. The place that they put
Yeah.
me in foster care, right, prior to my going there, so there's 9 adults living in a 3-bedroom house, 3 kids that have been there before. One has been shot dead by police. One has been abused in the toilets, and there's 2 convicted pedophiles living in the house. I get put into a back room with 3 adult men and myself in 2 double bunks where I'm abused repeatedly. The very first time I'm abused, I scream out and help, for help to my foster parents. They move me
Yeah.
to another room and, you know, long story short, I end up trying to go back to my real mother, but that didn't work, And she took off to South Australia. I caught a bus back with my brother to Oxford Street, and my dad,
Yeah.
my real dad, met us at Oxford Street. As I got
Yeah.
off the bus, my brother and I start following my dad to his car, and my dad turns around and says to me, "Where the f do you think you're going?" And I was like, "Home with you." And he goes, "No, mate, you're on your own. F off." And I remember sitting in the bus terminal, and I was so angry at my brother. I mean, he's 11, 12, but
Yeah.
I thought to myself, why aren't you coming with me? Why aren't you helping me, like taking my side?
Yeah.
But he was just going where he felt safe. I remember
Yeah.
sitting at the bus terminal, and this man named Terry comes, sits down beside me. He's a butcher, right? He's a predator. He says to me, "Oh, how you going, mate? What's going on?" And it leads to me following him to his home. And
Yeah.
but something in my gut instinct knew that it wasn't right. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I took off back to my foster parents. I wasn't welcome there, and they put me on a at the train station at Mount Druitt, and that's when I landed on the streets of the Cross. I'll stop there, and
Yeah.
then we'll go to the next part in a minute in case you want to ask something from backwards.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, mate. I didn't realise you had been through that many of the homes. You went through fucking all of them.
Oh, I've been through
How did you end
Albion Street,
up down at Warramai?
Sorry,
How come you ended up down at Warramai? Is that a remote
when I
town from
ran
even
away
from
from,
West Sydney?
so my dad was living in Gosford, and I ran
Oh.
away to. When I was arrested in Toronto. So in my book, I explain it. I got off a train station, and this lady took me home to her house, and she put me in bed. Like I thought she was going to be my mum. Like somewhere in my psychic, I believed that this woman was now my mum, and I
Yeah.
could just stay in her home. But about
Yeah.
2 o'clock in the morning, I was woken up by the police with a torch, and she did what every responsible adult would do, and she got the police. And they were
Yeah.
going to take me home, mate. They offered to take me home to my dad, and I said I don't want to go to him. I said go anywhere but him. So they took me to a place called
Yeah.
Warramai in Toronto, was it, or Broadmeadow, somewhere up in
Oh.
Newcastle, anyway. And it was actually quite good, that one. It had you had your own rooms. It had a big red brick wall around it. I remember it had a pool. I remember we used to get boiled lollies, and they had a little book they used to give you in the red or in the black. Have you been to Warramai?
No, no, heaps of mates, and heaps of the people that we help out have been there.
Okay, yeah, yeah. But 1979, I was in Warramai, 78 or 79, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's around that era.
Had a pool.
Yeah, it had a
Yeah.
pool. Yeah, it had a big brick wall around it, and it had like a dining room. Then it had a pool, and then they were single rooms, so it went round like in a square, and then there was a stair that went up the top as well. And up the top, you had what's called the privilege room. If you got enough
Yeah.
the black points, who have the most black points, got to stay in that room for the night, and it had a TV and stuff. And you had
Yeah.
little rooms, and they were like buzzer door locks, and on the wall there was like a silver thing that had like a speaker, so the screws could talk to you, and it
Yeah.
used to play music. It had a shower in it. It was quite um, a good home considering some of the other institutions I've been to. I'm not saying good
Yeah.
in the way people are treated. I'm saying good in the actual facility part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So,
yeah.
what were the screws like in comparison to like Reby or
I
Penang
don't have
or?
a great memory of them.
Okay.
Like I said, I didn't go through much turmoil of them. I remember that I was in trouble a lot. I actually have my reports from Warramai. Of all the institutions I've been to, the only ones that I can get full reports from is Warramai. I have a full assessment on it, and they kind of, you can see all the way through it. They're blaming me. It's all my fault. I'm a troubled kid. It's they didn't look further to see if you'd been through anything. You know.
Hmm.
But yeah, I didn't mind Warramai. I thought that Warramai was okay. I mean, my stay there was only for probably 8 weeks, at most. It was only a remand centre. It's not an actual institution.
Yeah. And what was it like there? Like the culture between the young ones there? Because I know, like, obviously, like Sydney boys, there's probably a bit more of a gang culture down that way. What was it still sort of like
Yeah,
that?
Yasma and the other institutions were a lot rougher, a lot tougher. I mean, there was a heavy amount of Indigenous kids in Warramai. So it
Yeah.
was, there seemed to be a lot more coming from country areas, perhaps, I'm not sure, but the amount of Indigenous kids in there was quite a few.
Big
Yeah.
Koori mob, eh?
Yeah, it's a big Koori mob down there. And so
Yeah.
Darrick was pretty similar as well, but not as heavy as Warramai was.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I remember a couple of kids from there as well. Like, I won't say their names, but one of them I ended up meeting in Darrick years later had a big knife tattooed on his arm. You know, I remember his name very clearly, but I won't say it. But yeah, so from after there, I landed on the streets of the Cross, as you probably know, which is what my book's
Yeah.
about. And very quickly, I was targeted by predators. I ended up living with a predator first, a guy named David Willett, and
Yeah.
and then after that, I ended up leaving his house and moving into a refuge. I had a beautiful little girlfriend. Her name was Linda. I was 15. She was 15. She was murdered, as you probably heard in my story. And
Yeah.
but that was after the refuge. So the refuge was run. What a lot of people don't understand is this refuge was set up by a children's magistrate, right, named Rod Blackmore, and it had 8 judges on the board. It was also had Prime Minister Bob Hawke on the board. I mean, these are all. I mean, I have all the paperwork. It's fact. These are facts, not just stuff that I'm rambling. It's actually proven fact. If you look up Homeless Children's Association, you'll see that the board. Then it had 5 men that worked there. All 5 of them were pedophiles. I've put all 4 of them in jail. The only one I haven't put in jail is dead, and there's another one that they can't find. But I've managed to have 4 of those men convicted, which is, you know, good. But it's just a touch of the truth. You know, they've got the minor players in somewhat. They got the main guy. I don't know if you know, but I had him extradited back from the Netherlands. I went through both royal
Yeah.
commissions. I've been through 4 separate trials against my abusers. I put 4 of them in jail. I was just on a current affair not long ago. They did my story. They came to court with me, and I had a lot of journalists supporting me through this because there was one journalist particular who was a police officer back in 1980, and he was instructed to take kids. I'll say his name because he's happy. His name's Duncan McNabb. He was a police officer in Darlinghurst, and he was instructed by senior police to take children to this refuge, knowing that all 5 men working there were raping and abusing the children. And he said, look, I'm not taking there with they're being abused. But he was told from a directive above that that is where they're to go, and which is passed on from Bob Hawke and the Labor Party at the time, who, you know, the problem I struggle with at the moment is knowing whether or not he's complicit or whether he's ignorant. That, you know, I don't have any facts against them. I only have facts against the 5 men that, you know, I put in jail, or the 4 men, sorry, I put in jail. I have facts
Yeah.
against others, but they just haven't been caught yet or convicted. One's MIA. But what happened was after the refuge closed, my girlfriend got murdered. And
Fucking hell, what happened?
so what happened was 2 men came out looking for a girl to sleep with. They found this older girl to come out and find a child, which is pretty much how it works in the Cross. And they took her home. They gave her heroin. She overdosed. They panicked. They didn't know what to do, so they kept her in a car all night. And then the following morning reported it. They were caught. They were convicted. They got 20 years jail. Then what happened was they appealed and they went before Judge Yeldon. I don't know if you've heard of him, but Judge Yeldon was also a pedophile judge. He was actually caught as a pedophile having sex with young boys in toilets in the museum station. He let out he set free the killers of my girlfriend and then committed suicide. Yeah, the
Who
whole
committed
reason
suicide? The judge or
the
the
judge,
guys who knocked the missus? Okay.
no, the judge took his life. And
Okay.
yeah, so which left me pretty angry, pretty bitter. And then one day I was walking down the main street and I ran into 2 of my abusers that ran the refuge, which was Simon Davies and Grant Morris. And I said, one day, bro, I said, I'm going to write a book and tell the fucking world what you did to me. I'm sorry. When I think about my girlfriend, bro, it just fucking rips at my heart.
No, you're right,
She
cuz.
was so beautiful, man. Anyway, I said to them, I said, one day I'm going to confront you. I said, one day I'm going to one day I'm going to hold you accountable and I'm going to tell the world what you did. I said, I'm going to write a book. And at that time, I
Yeah.
picked up heroin. I was a heroin addict. He said, mate, you can't even read and write. He said, you're a heroin addict and you'll be dead by the 21, age of 21. And he laughed in my face. And the saddest
Yeah.
part to that was that for the next 35 years, that's exactly how it played out. You know, I shot up heroin. I went in and out of jails for crimes that I didn't even do, armed robberies and different things. You know, I went through Long Bay, Parramatta, Goulburn, not Goulburn, Bathurst, Oberon. You know, I did the rounds like
Yeah, yeah,
everybody.
yeah,
And yeah, but then the Woods Royal Commission came about. I came forward and I gave them a whole heap of information, you know, told
yeah,
them
yeah,
the truth. That put 2 people in
yeah,
jail, 2 pedophiles. And then I went into rehab in 2009 to get
yeah.
my life back, you know. And
Mm.
but unfortunately, while I was in rehab, I got cancer. I had thyroid cancer,
Fucked
so I
off.
had to, yeah, I nearly died. I dropped down to 59 kilos and had to have my whole thyroid cut out and go through, you know, all the treatments. And I also had hepatitis C, which I'd got from the refuge, you know, like up from using needles at the refuge. So I was a mess. So they had to get rid of my cancer, then get rid of my thyroid, my liver disease. And then I went back to the police. I went to a lawyer and I said, listen, they've arrested 2 people, but they're not the real players. Simon Davies, Grant
Yeah.
Morris, there's real people out there that need to be arrested. I don't think they believed me
Mm.
when I first came forward. I remember them sitting there with
Yeah.
their arms folded, listening to my story, thinking this is just too much, you know, to be real. 6 weeks later, they come back and seen me and they said, mate, we've been right around Australia, literally every state in Australia, interviewing kids from all over the place. And every single person we spoke to reaffirmed what you said, literally said word for word what I told them. So what they did was they asked me to wear a wire. I had to put on an
Yeah.
actual wire, which goes against the grain of everything I'd been taught, you know, wearing a wire. But I did, and I had to run into this guy on the street at Parramatta, and they gave me a false phone as well, so I gave him a phone number, and he rang me up one night drunk and wanted to reminisce, you know, talk about things of old that he'd done and had happened. And after he hung up, I almost felt sick, but straight away the police rang me up and they said, "Hey mate, we got him. You know, all
Yeah.
that information you just did, we got him." And they said, listen, can you do us a favour? Next time he rings back, invite him out for lunch and tell him you want to introduce him to another pedophile who you know's got this kid that's trying to get this kid. You need to get this kid out of living with his parents. So it was all
Yeah.
staged. I did all what I was told to do. I walk into this restaurant with a detective, as an undercover detective. He sits down opposite me, mate, pulls out a piece of paper and pushes it across the table. I turn it over, and on there was a photo of 2 boys naked laying on a bed from the refuge. I wanted to jump up and hit him right there, but the part that really got me angry was he said to this bloke, he said, we targeted prepubescent children that come from broken homes that no one gave a shit about. While I'm sitting there, like, hello, I'm the kid in the refuge. You know, my friends, my family were in there, and yeah, so he went down. He got 2 years, 8 months for
2 years.
multiple abuses. Yeah, 2 fucking years. And mate,
Fucking hell.
the first 2 they put in jail, the first one, Paul Chetwin Jones, he had his own house in Corunna Road where 20 kids were living, as well as coming to the refuge as a counsellor and abusing kids there. He got 18 months. Ken Fogarty, the other one I put in jail, he got 18 months. But then the last one that I put in jail, Simon Davies, he took off, right? He was named by multiple people in the Woods Royal Commission, so he fled to Scotland Yard, to London. Scotland Yard warned him that we were after him. Then in 2016, police put out a red notice on him, went worldwide with a warrant. So he fled to the Netherlands. There was 4 victims, 18 charges. What happened was he went to the Netherlands because they have what's called a statute of limitation law that enabled him to negate 9 of the 18 charges and take out 2 of the victims. So out of the 4 of us, 2 of them never got any justice at all, which is just bullshit. I got him back here, and then we had COVID, so I had to sit through 2 years of COVID while he was in the Netherlands. Then after that, we finally got him back to Australia, and then it just went on and on and on. Took me 27 years from the first court case to the most recent one, which was last year. He got 10
Fucking
years.
hell. You're kidding.
Yeah, yeah, 27 years. And you know, anyway, it's a joke, mate. And the real players still to this day, you know, like I can't fathom how the judge that founded that refuge has not been held accountable. And the woman, Annie Crow, the woman that I confided in, I literally walked up to her and the next morning after being abused and said, I've been raped. I used them words, I've been raped. And they took me to a cafe and sat me down and manipulated me. Glenn, this is love. This is King's Cross. Simon loves you, mate. Don't you understand this is how King's Cross works? You're overreacting, mate. And
What the fuck?
that manipulation allowed my abuse to continue. And after that refuge and my girlfriend's death, I started putting needles in my arm because I couldn't handle how I felt. I could not stand how I felt. I kept getting flashbacks of what they'd done, and I kept thinking, I'm gay. You know what? All these things have done to me. Maybe I'm gay. I had a girlfriend the whole time, but maybe I'm gay. I tried to take my life twice. I just couldn't cope. And but rehab saved my life, mate. You know, and even though I didn't complete the program, I did 12 months of it. I got enough of it for it to sink in. You know, that I needed help.
Wow. Jesus, mate. That's fucking
I
fucked
appreciate it,
up.
Luke.
Yeah. Fuck. That's heavy,
Just
brother.
just want to quickly say to people there, I can't see without my glasses, so if I'm not responding, please don't be offended. I appreciate all the lovely messages, and I will read them after. So that's it in a very tight, condensed version of it. There's a hell of a lot more, you know. I mean, there's a lot of corruption around the police in King's Cross. As you know, they were the suppliers of the heroin at the time. They were also protecting the pedophiles because the pedophiles supplied the money to the kids, and the kids supplied the money to the dealers, and the dealers supplied the money to the police, you know. So it was in their interest to protect the pedophiles, not the street kids. We're a dime a dozen.
Yeah. When you say the Woods Royal Commission, is that when all the coppers got pinched for being dirty?
That's correct. Yeah. So they did. Originally, I went forward and spoke about some corrupt detectives in the cross, and but after all of us gave our statements, we all kept explaining about the pedophilia. So Justice Wood said that he was going to extend it into the pedophilia in King's Cross. I was also involved in the Royal Commission into institutional abuse as well. So I went for 96, 2014. I was up at the Apology in Canberra. You know, I've been through it right through the system in court cases. It's phenomenal how much I've actually done when I look back at it and think, how did I do that? You know, the very first time I came forward, I didn't think I could do it. And I just kept doing it. You know, I just kept finding strength. And, you know, a lot of people around me were watching me self implode, and which obviously causes destruction to all those you love as well when you're in active addiction and in pain. But they just kept loving me and, you know, supporting me. You know, even one of my friends today, you know, that's I said they messaged me and said, you know, I really hope for you, Glenn, that you'd be in a better place after Simon's conviction. And they don't know this, but I actually started crying and broke down, and I thought I had hoped that too.
Hmm. Yeah. Mate, that's a fucking wild story.
Oh
It's
wow,
clear as hell as hell,
that's.
mate.
I just had someone say thank you for that. Because of you, I had my abusers sentenced. Man, that touches my heart hardcore. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, that's some positive feedback, mate.
Yeah, it is. Because that's
Yeah.
what it's about for us now. For me, what I wanted to make sure is that these crimes never happen again. These people are held accountable, you know. And the other thing I really want is to give people a voice, because I felt so voiceless for so long. You know, I was screaming out, telling people, and they just kept locking me in mental institutions, in boys' homes, in jails, anything that shut me up. And then when you get in them places, you've got to navigate and cope. You know, the last thing on your mind is justice. You're just trying to survive the system. You know.
Yeah, 100%, especially when you're in jail, mate. There's not much time to think about anything else, especially
No,
down in Sydney. I never done
no,
any
that's
jail in
right.
Sydney, but yeah, my dad done 16 and a half down there, so
Yeah, it's hectic in Sydney jails.
yeah.
It is.
Which did you say you went to Goldman?
No, no, I didn't go to Goldman. I don't know why I said that before. I was just rattling off names and that came to my mind.
Oh,
No, so I first went to Long Bay MRC, then I went to Parramatta. Then from Parramatta, they changed it from A class O to B class O, so they moved all the A class back to the bay. So I went to CIP in Bathurst. Then from CIP, I went to Bathurst, where I was in Bathurst Main in B4. And then I got moved from B4 to Bathurst X Wing, which is another part of that, but it's a C class O, C1. And then from there, I went to a place called Oberon, which is a farm. And I spent
yeah,
the last, I don't know, probably 12 or 14 months in a farm and a forestation camp, you know,
yeah,
where I got an education. So I couldn't read and write. I was illiterate. I didn't do much schooling, but
yeah,
I actually did my general certificate of education whilst I was in jail. You know, I passed. I didn't pass on a big level, but I passed. For me,
Yeah.
that was a huge achievement. I learned to read, I learned to write, um, and all those things, gave me the ability to write that book that I promised that I would one day.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the best way to get your book?
So there's multiple ways now. So one of my children messaged me yesterday so that it's on Easy Reads now. It's on Kindle. It's on Amazon. You can go to the Blaxland Post Office, and the beautiful people there have it in stock. Or the most way that people have been getting it from me is you just message me, and I'll send you the bank details, which is $39 plus $10 for postage, and then I'll sign them and post them away. But the cheaper version, obviously, is Kindle or Easy Reads if you can't afford to buy a hard copy. Me, the money's not as important as the story. I just want people to know what happened. I don't care about the money side of it. I genuinely don't.
Yeah. Well, guys, we'll be dropping the link in all of the platforms that we're watching this on tonight. And also, if you want to, obviously go over and give Glenn a follow, or just hit me up on an inbox. I can send you the link. I've got it.
Yeah, yeah,
But that's an amazing
yeah. I can
story, mate.
send you. What's that, mate?
Oh, it's just an amazing story. I just wanted to ask you a few more questions, if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, everyone's probably heard of King's Cross. It's notorious. I think it's changed a lot now. I
Yeah,
didn't go there
absolutely.
back in the day. My dad
Yeah,
told me stories about them. My other family. I went there because I used to be involved in gangs, but I think when I was hanging around there, it wasn't like it used to be. And
right.
from what it used to be, like I just want to, what was it like for just say you were sort of a street kid around that area. What did that look like for just an average night or the weekend? Walk down. What would you see? What was there? Drug use, fights,
Yeah, a
girls?
lot. So I wrote about it in my book. I remember the first time I saw, like, I had a violent action where I went to the toilet once, and my mate I came out, and this guy tried to do something in the toilet. And my mate Scarface Ray walked in and actually beat the absolute crap out of him. I'd never seen anyone beat like that. But what actually happened was, and how I ended up in the first hands of a pedophile was, I was up the main street one day, and this
Yeah,
fight broke out between all these doormen, and all these bikers. And like
yeah,
being a kid, I was like, oh, fight, fight, fight. So I ran to get to the front of the fight. But suddenly the crowd around me got so big that I was getting almost pushed into the fight. And I remember just being absolutely terrified. Just now to see.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, sorry, mate. Yeah, I just remember being terrified. Like I remember the two doormen at the time, Sonny and China, and China actually became. He was a dancer. I was a break dancer, believe it or not. I used to break dance on the street at one point, and China used to dance with me. But some of the violence I seen through them two men, specifically out the front of some of the places like Pink Pussycat and Love Machine, like Friday and Saturday nights was very violent. But it was it wasn't until after the refuge when I first was there, it was almost like it was all this glitz and glam. Everything was bright and shiny. I saw these motorbikes and all the pinball parlors and the sex shops, and it didn't really dawn on me. But after the refuge, when I started using heroin, it was almost like it opened its eyes to me. The streets become smelly. Everything was violent. Everybody I knew was a heroin addict or a heroin dealer. I didn't realize the full level of corruption that was King's Cross until I started using, and it changed very quickly from what I first experienced. Originally, the cross in 1980, 81, 82, 83, even 84 was littered with children. It was every kid that got
Really?
out of the institution. Yeah, there was kids everywhere and predators. Around 85, 86, it started to bring cocaine to the street and the whole streets changed. There was a lot of gang wars happening on the streets, people being shot, being stabbed, being robbed. The back streets were littered with syringes and needles. It was terrible. And then they ended up opening a shooting gallery on the street in Kirkton Road Centre and Rankton Court and all these different places to facilitate. And then, of course, Porky's, who was also had a needle. They used to give you needles and spoons and rent you a room. People used to go in there and use a lot. But I got to know a lot of people. Yeah, that was a way to make money, wasn't it? They saw a market, a niche, and they thought, well, all these addicts using on the street, we can buy this and sell. They used to sell us a little bag with the water, the spoon, the swab, and everything. And you'd pay for that and then the room, and you'd have like a couple of minutes to go in there, do your bit, and then go out. And people, I mean, the amount of people that overdose through Porkies is terrible. And in what we call Junkies Lane, which is a lane that ran behind Victoria Street and Main Street, Darlinghurst Road.
Wow. It's
Yes,
fucking nuts.
it was. And, I watched it go through different eras, the 80s, the early 90s, the late 80s and early 90s. And there's a lot of violence in the cross.
Yeah. When the gangs come through, what sort of gangs was it? Like bikies or Asian gangs?
No, well, the bikies were already there. The bikies were established. So I'm not going to say which club, but when I started dealing, I was dealing speed at around the age of 16 for the bikies. And
Yeah.
one of them literally was living in a flat above me. And like I was just going upstairs, getting it, coming down, and I was selling to the street and I was being looked after by the bikies. But then what happened was there was a shift. And certain races started coming in. There was Romanians, all the different races started coming in. And they opened up this place called Lasers on one side of the street. It was almost like a vending machine. They used to go in and put your $70 or $80 in the wall. Then out of a hole, they give you a Coke. On the other side, they had a place called Pink Panther. Next door to that was called the King's Door. That was a hotel. So in there was a guy named Bayer who used to sit at the bottom. And then up the top, there was a guy, I think it's DK, they called him. Danny, I don't want to say, I don't like dropping names. But because I don't know these people, I just bought drugs from them. You know what I mean? They're not my friends or so one side of the street was fighting with this side of the street, and it was literally like a war. And it's not a good place to be for addicts because we didn't know where to go, and it was just a hectic time.
Did you ever overdose going through the cross?
Multiple times. I don't know how I'm alive. I overdosed 3 times in one day once. I was telling a story. So a pedophile gave me some money once, right? I walked around to Junkie's Lane and I was in the back lane. I overdosed. He actually went to 2 different houses, to try and get me some help. And but when he was standing over me, 2 other street kids come around the corner to have their shot, and they saw this man standing over me out, and he nearly got himself really hurt until he explained that he was my friend and I'd overdosed and he was trying to get me help. But I overdosed 13 times in 2 years. So I overdosed a lot. And the funny thing was, I didn't start overdosing until I added pills to the equation. When I was just using gear, I never overdosed really, or I think I had one. Then I started
What do you
taking
mean
pills on
pills?
top of the heroin.
Like
Eh?
Eckies? What do you mean
No,
pills?
I was
Eckies?
taking, Valium, Seropax, Rohypnol, sleeping
Right.
tablets. Yeah, I was taking them on top of the gear because obviously the gear didn't work as well. So,
Yeah. Mate, it sounds like it would have been a crazy time. Maybe also a little bit of fun.
well, there was a lot of fun at the start. Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of good times. Some of the best friends that I've ever met in my life come from the cross. Not many of them survive, but those that have all interact with me today. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, there were some good times. There's always good times amongst the bad, isn't there? Like the funny thing is, I remember the first time I used gear. It was like a medicine for me. Like my head didn't stop, and I took it, and suddenly it was like there was this peacefulness that overcome me, and I spent the next 35 years trying to find that feeling. I have a lot of stories I could tell about the cross. There's just so many things that have happened. I got out of prison. I went down and robbed a dealer. Like I'd never behaved like that in my life, but I literally went down and like just grabbed one by the throat and put him against the wall. I remember him spitting these balloons out, and it was crazy, mate. I wrote about that in my book too. It's like that's the things you do. Like I picture little Glen that couldn't beat a fly to this man that's got out of prison, a big guy that's grabbing people by the throat and just saying, spit it out. Like I didn't want to go through all the trouble of finding the money. It was just quicker to go straight to the source and take it. And
Yeah.
but that could have easily ended badly for me.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So King's Cross is pretty much your home. So like you get pinched, go jail, get out, go home. So I was
Pretty
there in
much.
jail, was it?
That's right. And in '92, I got out of jail October '92. I did a couple more years stint when I got out again, and then around about '94, I had my first. We had our first child. Well, actually, I had a child before that with a
Yeah.
girl. It's a longer story. But my partner, we had 4 children. That was the first of the 4
Mm.
that I had in '94, and that's when my life started to turn around a bit. I moved
Yeah.
up to Lithgow, lived there for 16 years, on and off
Cold
methadone,
country.
and yeah, went to the country and tried to calm down. But funnily enough, there was about 7 or 8 people that lived there that were all friends of mine from the cross. Like, a lot of them gone to, they've had enough and trying to move out and get on with their lives. But, I saw more stuff happen in Lithgow than the cross in some ways, in the way of overdoses. So more people die in that country town in 16 years than I probably saw. I mean, there was probably more in the cross, but I mean people I actually knew,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
insane.
Dad done a lot of time at Lithgow, mate. I remember going out there. Fuck, it
Okay.
was cold. Fucking so
Yeah.
cold out there.
Yeah.
It's freezing,
Oberon's
brother.
cold. You
Yeah.
should go to Oberon prison, mate. That snows. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I actually
yeah.
ran a marathon in Oberon and came first, believe it or not. I used to jog for
Yeah.
an hour every morning, play touch football, and they put on a marathon to raise money for HIV. It was 46 kilometres, and I actually ran it in 3 hours, 1 minute, came first. Yeah, it's probably the proudest thing I ever did.
Yeah, good on you, mate. I'm training for a
Yeah.
marathon at the moment, so I know what goes into it. It's not easy.
The night before, I take bananas when you're running and overload on carbs the night before. I read Robert De Costella's book, believe it or not, when I was in prison before I ran the marathon, and I actually followed the diet that's in that book. Get it? I'm telling you, it
Oh,
works
really?
magic. Yeah, like
Yeah.
so many people, like it helps me heaps. Like just overloading with carbs the night before, and then I was actually eating bananas through the trip, and it worked. Yeah,
Yeah, good on you, mate.
yeah.
Yeah. How did the ham and eggs feel after that?
Ham and egg. Oh, the leg. Oh, I actually had shin splint. So what
Oh, yeah.
happened? I'll tell you the funniest part. I came in so quick that they were filming it that this bloke said to
Yeah.
me, "Can you go back and run back in again?" And I was like, "No, mate." I was like on my back. But the next day, for about 3 days, I could hardly walk, man. I had bad cramps. I ended up getting shin splint because I used to play touch
Yeah.
football, into jail football, and I
Yeah.
couldn't
Yeah.
play for 2 weeks because of it. Yeah, so you're not wrong.
Yeah. Right.
But I used to run an hour every day and play touch football for an hour every afternoon, so I was pretty used to running anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Oh, we've got some comments here.
Okay. Yes, Glen
I'm
Fisher's
a
my
third
real
year.
name.
Oh, yeah.
If you
I'll just
Google
read this
Glen
one.
Fisher, you'll find I just did a current affair interview and a whole lot of other interviews. It's the book's there by Glen Fisher, Predator's Paradise by Glen Fisher.
Yeah, make sure you guys go out and get a copy of that. I'm going to get a couple
Can
myself.
I read your comment? I'll have a look for it, mate. My father-in-law ran around Surrey Hills and the Cross, done a lot of time as well. Okay, mate. Hey, Kyle, you look familiar to me. I might have a chat with you later on. Hey, Misunderstood. How you going, mate? Geez, I tell you what, the feedback that I've got, I tried to sell my book on Facebook for 2 years or 3 years and sold probably 50, and that's including for my book launch. Since I've been on
Yeah.
TikTok, it's just been great. Like I'm
Yeah.
selling like 3 or 4 books a week, but for a stage there, I was selling like 3 or 4 books a day when I first came on.
Yeah. Right.
Obviously it slows down, but it was great that many people were interested to read it. Oh, thanks, Rachel. Hey,
Got a really
Misunderstood.
nice comment here, mate. I'll read it
What's
out
that,
to you.
mate?
Oh, we've got a really nice comment here. I'll read it out.
Yep.
So, Kaz Thorne said, I'm a third year criminology and criminal justice student. I'm not sure how I ended up following this page to begin with, but I just want to commend all of you for your speaking up. We can't prevent institutional abuse or help gain justice for survivors. It's not spoken about. Thank you for telling your story. You've definitely sparked something in me. My interest has been in rehabilitation and crime and analysis so far, but I will be looking into how I might be able to help survivors seek justice, possibly as a volunteer role. You are all
Okay.
doing so much good. I'll be buying Glen's book tonight.
Awesome.
That's
One of the things that I want to respond to that is that there's a lot of people in institutions who are silenced because I started to write my book in jail, and then one day I looked at it and I thought, geez, if someone else finds this, this isn't what I should be doing. So I ripped it up. My point is that there's a lot of people, I believe, in prison who either be it through addiction or through abuse. Often, they all go hand in hand. So and that's the recidivism that we know of. So it would be great to get an outreach into the prison system to reach survivors. to give them a safe spot where they could speak without fear of other prisoners knowing, like I don't know how that would look, but geez, it would be handy. I would have really appreciated something like that when I was in jail.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a
I
really
know
good
Russell,
idea.
yeah, I know Russell Manson's doing a bit of that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
which is great. I would like to help Russell with that.
yeah. Mate,
Waiting
that's
for
what
books.
we.
I'm writing book two. I'm writing another book, by the way.
Yeah.
And people are saying waiting for book two. Yeah. So I wrote the book up until jail. What I want to do is write the book now from the court cases and the 27 years and the battles that it took to get, to get to that.
Hmm.
It's the second part of the story.
Yeah. Mate, you're looking real good too, bro. You're looking healthy.
Yeah, a lot healthier than I was. I got a photo in there which I was thinking I might put up on TikTok. I got two. One's of me when I had full in addiction. I'm 56 kilos. I'm 6'3". I look very, very sick. I look very sick. Then there's one of me in the gym about 2 years later, and I'm jacked. And I put the two of them side by side, and I thought, geez, I should share that on TikTok. But the reason I didn't was I thought if I put the jacked one on there, they'd think I'm showing off. And
Yeah.
you know, but I wanted to show them in unison, to show them the vast difference of what it's like when you do get your act together, what can happen. I'm nearly not far off 60 now, but, like life's a lot better now, even in a lot of ways, especially with family and stuff. Beck Garnett Lowell, no therapy in jail. Absolutely, there's not. Hey, I just realised who it was. Hey, mate, how are you?
Yeah, it's interesting. What was the hardest jail for you?
Long Bay. CIP, I think. Oh, no, actually, you know what the hardest one was for me? MRC.
Yeah.
So when I first got put into prison, they put you in, and the reason it's harder is because you're on remand, not sentenced. And in remand, people are a lot more volatile, a lot more, because they don't know where they're going. Once you've been sentenced, you've sort of got an idea of where it ends. Does that make sense? And
Yeah.
but when you're in that stage of where you first landing off the street, you got a lot of people that come in that still got heroin habits, still addict. Yeah, so I think 13 wing Long Bay would have been the hardest for me. I think it was very hectic jail,
Mm.
and Parramatta wasn't much better either, to be honest. But I found I was lucky in the sense that because I'd grown up on the streets, I had a lot of friends there. But you realise very quickly that doesn't mean a lot in jail. It only means a little bit. It doesn't mean it's not a safety guard. It just means that it's a little bit easier to know people and get a few lessons of what to do and what not to do. Like it's yeah.
What was it like for
And,
you? I never. I used to take a lot of drugs and alcohol, mate, but I never got on the H. What I heard,
yeah.
and I've seen very close people to me OD, and I've seen how hard it is for them when they're coming down. What was it like for you coming down, going through the watch house, getting into jails? Was there the Butte program down there back then, or was it just
No,
cold turkey? That's it.
no. So what happened for me was when I got arrested, I was actually on 90 mils of methadone,
Yeah,
and their riots had just happened in the jail, so they weren't accepting people in the prison. So I
yeah.
got stuck into. I was taking pills. I was on 90 mils of methadone. And I was shooting heroin every day, and then bang, I got put into the Sydney Police Centre. I was there for 8 weeks because the prison was not accepting people. One guy really annoyed me.
Oh,
Another guy tried to commit suicide. They took him straight to Long Bay. I stayed there the whole 8 weeks in full withdrawals. I remember them putting my sandwiches through the wall and they just lined up because I wasn't
yeah.
eating. It was rough. Yeah, that was the roughest withdrawal I ever did.
So when you say that, is that 8 weeks watch house?
Yeah, it was like a watch house. It was 8 weeks in the police centre, police cells. That's right. It's like being in actual cells, not the
Yeah.
actual jail. Because there'd been riots at Parramatta and a couple of jails, and they weren't taking anybody in the prisons. So we were just stuck. Everyone was stuck at wherever they were being arrested and just kept in cells. And it was horrible, like no smokes, all that. We were getting some smokes, like sometimes, depending on what coppers were on, they'd sometimes bring in and let you come out for a little bit, have a shower and have a smoke. But it was horrible, and people were coming and going, but because I was, wasn't getting bail, I was stuck. It was hard. With heroin was a tough. I never realised how sick I was my whole life until I stopped using. And with the hepatitis on top of that, it doesn't help either.
Did you do interferon, or how did you get rid of yours?
Yeah, interferon. So I did interferon, and I had to do radiation treatment first for my cancer, and then I had to do interferon, and I also did the new medication. So it only went for 3 months or 4 months. I did interferon with the new one that's out now. So I was a trial patient. I actually did at Nepean Hospital. They took 10 of us on as a trial, and they'd never treated anybody before with hyperactivity of thyroid cancer, and Hep C before, because the liver, to treat the liver impacts the thyroid, and to treat the thyroid impacts the liver. So I was kind of a test study, but geez, I noticed it when I came out of it. And like I said, I was training, going to the gym. I was a machine. Same as in jail. Before I went to jail, I was 56 kilos. I got out of jail, I was 92 kilos, and just a machine.
Yeah, would you say you're 6'3"?
Yeah, or 192, whatever that is in. I've never actually known what it is. It's 192 centimeters, whatever that is in foot. I think it's 6'2" or 6'3".
Yeah, okay. Yeah, wow. So when was your last when was your last time in the Nick?
I got out in 1992 on the 28th of October, which 26th of
Man, for a
October.
while.
Sorry, yeah,
31
it's been a
years.
while. Yeah, I haven't been back since. I've never been a criminal person. It's not been me. I was lucky I didn't. Like the first day I got out of jail, I literally went to a pub with a mate, got drunk, and had a punch on in a pub because the guy wouldn't shake my hand. Jail mentality. Like he said, oh, I don't want to talk to some cunt that's been in jail. And he was hugged up in the bathroom, and I'm trying to bash the door open. Like, luckily for me,
Yeah,
the barman said, listen, mate, you've had enough. Jump in a cab, go home, or you're going back to prison. And
yeah.
and then I told you I went down the cross and started robbing people, like on a dare that started over. Someone, like, that's all talk, mate. You wouldn't really do that. I was, let's go, and I did. And yes, the crazy things you do in addiction, but I've always been a general person. I've never actually been a criminal, if that makes sense. It was always through need. Any crimes that I kind of done was more around addiction.
Yeah. So you're mostly addicted to H and
Heroin, yeah.
yeah.
So I started off as using speed when I was selling for the bikers, and then what happened was the dealers and I got busted. The bikers and I got busted at the same time. He had to pay 10K to the police, and so he didn't sell to me for a while, and I couldn't get on anywhere. And one of my friends talked me into buying heroin, which was pink rocks at the time, and that changed me. From that day forth, I became a heroin addict, and then obviously I went through the methadone, suboxytones, all those different things, different treatments.
Hmm. Yeah, it sounds like it was fucking wild back then.
It was very wild, mate. And and the thing was, they were still learning. Like when I first got on methadone, you only got on for 6 months. They used to put you on a high dose and then take you down. And it was like up and down really quickly, which was terrible. Then they changed it from a treatment program to a maintenance program, where they realized that if we get them coming to you every day, we know where they are. They have to come here every day. If they break the law, the police can just come and get them. It was a way to control, I believe, and they were
Yeah.
putting children on it. Like I was seeing kids, 15 and 16-year-old, put on methadone programs, which is just insane. That should be the last port of call for a hardcore addict, not for the first up kind of treatment.
Yeah, that term treatment plan. Fucking hell.
Yeah,
Fucking crazy, isn't it? Just keep
yeah.
giving people this drug so they keep turning up every day so we can keep under our thumb and keep in control, you
Well, they
know?
can control, they get funding, it keeps all these people employed, whilst what they do is they're slowly killing our health. Like I've seen so many people, most people die around the age of between 50 and 60 who have had long time amounts on methadone or with hepatitis C. There's so many of my friends. I've lost 3 in the last 12 months from the refuge from liver disease, and others now are very ill as well. It's
Yeah,
very sad.
yeah, yeah.
Mate, I have about 5 more minutes. I'm so sorry. And then I have to go. As I said, I have another pod on tonight, which I
No,
really
you're
feel
right.
bad about. I can give you about 5 or 10 more minutes. Is that okay?
No, that's fine, brother. I appreciate that. I mean, I really want everyone who's follows us to give Glenn a follow.
Yeah.
So if you're on Facebook, it's just Glenn Fisher. Um, are you on Insta or?
I am on Instagram, but I don't know how to use it. So I've actually
Yeah,
I'm on Facebook and I'm on Twitter. and I'm on TikTok, and I'm also on Insta. But the Insta one I don't know how to use. I can navigate all the others, but that one I just don't know how. I might have to get my kids to sit down and spend 5 or 10 minutes with me one day and just show me how it all goes.
And do you have a website, or you just prefer people to go straight to the links in your on your
Yeah,
Facebook or pages to buy the book?
yeah, just go through the either go through Amazon or just message me on TikTok, Facebook, whichever one it is. I'm not quite that tech savvy, mate. You know how to run all those things. Like the fact that you're running all these on a multiple thing, I don't know how to do. I run a pod, as I said, for NRL, but the guy that does that with me, he's the tech savvy one, so he does all of our, Spotify's and YouTubes and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, so guys, if you want to jump on and grab one of Glenn's books, please give him a follow, a like, share. Jump on his TikTok too. He's been doing some good dances on there. I've been watching him.
I saw that one, did you?
Yeah, I was laughing. I was like, yeah, look at this old boy having a crack. I
Yeah,
love it.
I do some silly things sometimes. I got my son living here now, so he should probably keep me in tow. You
Yeah,
won't get any more of that.
yeah, good
Yeah,
on
I
you.
used to be a break dancer many years ago, and believe it or not, when I was a kid, I did Latin American ballroom dancing. I was forced to do
Yeah,
it when I was a kid, and I won a couple of medals doing cha-cha, foxtrot, samba, and all those kind of things, and it led me into break
yeah,
dancing. Yeah,
yeah. I
I
always
don't
wanted
have.
to do that when I was a kid.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, I don't have a lot of talents, but that was one of them. That probably my only talent. I do a bit of drawing and writing of poetry and stuff, but I don't think I'm really good at it. I just sort of do it because it makes me feel good.
Is that your artwork behind us?
Yeah, it is some of it. Yeah,
Can you give us a bit
yeah,
of a close look with your can? And do
yeah.
you
I can
sell
do that.
that or just the books?
No, I don't. I just do it. I don't think I'm good enough to sell, but like, oh, that's the jacked me.
You go back.
So that's some of my art there.
Yeah, mate.
There's some of my
Where'd you start
mates here,
drawing?
the old crew.
Yeah.
What's that, mate?
You start drawing in the nickel.
Yeah, that's right. So what I did, I didn't. A lot of people got visits in jail, and I never had visits. I had nobody, right? So I had to make an earn. So my earn was chess, table tennis, and drawing. I used to make cards for people, and it used to say, "Money's tight. Here, times are hard. Here's your fucking Christmas card." That's literally what I used to write in it. And then I used to draw pictures on the front, and I used to make about 10 or 15 of them. And then people used to come to my slot and give me a packet of ox or noodles or whatever it was, so I could have the creature comforts that they could get because I didn't have, I earned $38 a week, I think it was, in jail working in the um, I know education, working in education. So working at Oberon, I was in education. In Bathurst, I did schooling. But because I worked in education, was doing education, I ended up getting a job in education, which was really good for me. It allowed me to learn computers a little bit when I was in there, and the lady really took her time with me. Like, God love her. This lady, Jane, I couldn't write. Like, I had no idea. I used to hold my pen like that, and she took the time to teach me. And before, like, at the end of my prison sentence, I was writing poems. And like, I even put out a prison paper in prison, like an actual paper in prison, which had to be approved
What's
by
it
the
called?
screws. Yeah.
What's it called?
It was called Was It Happening?
Yeah, right.
Was it happening? Yeah, and like so, we'd have touch football comps. It was for everyone that was in the jail. Like I used to put a couple of poems in. I used to put a crossword in it, and if there was a touch football comp going or table tennis comp, I used to like every time someone would see me, they'd say, "Oh, here comes Glen with a bluey," because I was always asking them to put $1 in each so I could get trophies for the touch footy comp or for the whatever I was running that week, the chess tournament or the table tennis tournament. It was
Yeah,
my way to survive prison was to be proactive and I was sort of known as the guy that sort of ran everything. And
yeah.
that was how I sort of survived my prison, if that makes sense.
No, I get it. You got to bust a move. Fucking put food on the
Yeah,
table, mate. And if you got
that's
no
right.
coins
Yeah,
on you, you got to fucking you got to eat.
I wasn't a tough guy in prison. I wasn't a gangster or any of those things. I was friendly to everyone. Everyone was friendly to me. And I think that's why it was because I never acted tough. I never pretended I was tough. I was capable. I just didn't, it's not my nature unless
Yeah.
provoked or hanging out, robbing dealers.
Oh, yeah. No worries, mate. Well, I know you're a fucking busy man. You got some things on tonight, but thanks for jumping on.
Yeah, no worries. Just quickly, I've spoken to Fiona before. Yes, hi Linda. Hi guys. Anyway, thanks everyone for joining us tonight, and thanks so much for having a chat. And look, if you want to catch up again at some other time where I'm less being pulled left and right, I'd be happy to do it.
No, definitely, and I'll definitely encourage anyone on your page that wants to have a look at what we're doing to follow us on About Time for Justice.
Do you want to
That's
take 2 minutes to explain that?
Yeah, is that all right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So me and my dad started About Time for Justice about 2.5 years ago, and what we do at About Time for Justice is help people, survivors that have been through institutional child abuse, to seek justice, start healing, and possible compensation. So we use the
Okay.
compensation money that me and Dad got for going through institutional abuse to start up our organisation. So we've been going for 2.5 years now, and we've travelled nearly all over Australia, down to Tasmania, up to Townsville, over to the Territory. We also work up there with the Bit of Stolen Generation mob out in the different communities. I've visited jails and prison systems ever since I was 10 years old. Visited my dad because he'd done a 16.5 year prison sentence. He suffered abuse at his local primary school as a kid. I went through Brisbane Boys Yard. So when I was 17 years old, I got pinched, went there, turned 18, went straight to the men's. So yeah, when I say institution, it's pretty broad. It could be a boys' home, girls' home,
Yeah.
foster cares, docks, any youth detention centres, any churches or church-run institutions, any missions, reserves, community-based groups, sporting teams, Girls Guides, Scouts, after-school cares, hostels, youth hostels. And when I say churches, some people just think like that's a church, like Sunday, like a Sunday church. It could be like an after-school care. It could be, one of the school camps that's run by one of the church groups, or it could be a Sunday school, any of the church-run organisations out there, and any of the schools too. That's private, public, boarding, and then in different states and territories, it's could be called foster cares, docs, territory families. Could be a group home setting. Lots of the guys that we help out, and women too, they're in jail, unfortunately, after they've been through drug and alcohol abuse, exactly what Glenn has described. I've been through it myself. I got caught up in bikie gangs when I was younger. I was looking at 25 years at one stage of my life for my gang associations and what I got pinched for. But me and Dad and our family are back together now. We're just taking every day as it comes. We've got a big, amazing team that helps people out all over Australia in the community, in the prison system. So, yeah,
Awesome.
that's the pretty short end of it. But if you want to jump on and give us a follow on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, we've got a podcast called Survivor Stories that I'd like to get you on for as well, Glenn, maybe at some point coming up in the
Yeah,
next couple of months.
absolutely,
Yeah,
mate. I'm happy to help. I also run a page on Facebook called Predators Paradise for those that don't know. I
yeah,
have not been compensated. It's complex. I wanted to get through it. I'll have a chat with you about it sometime, but I've never actually been compensated. Not for what docs did to me, not for what happened to me in foster care, not for any of my abusers, not by the refuge, not by Derek, not by anyone. And it's been a sore point for me because I have very hard trust issues. As you know, I was struggling to come on with you. I get very
yeah,
scared of who I align myself with because there's
yeah,
so much nonsense out there and so many bullshitters out there that I just get so scared who to align myself with. And
yeah.
I want to apologise for my abruptness this morning. I was kind of looking for a way out, and I thought, you know what, it's not
I was
fair.
trying to
Let's
have a
give.
warm shower.
I know, mate. I know. I wasn't in a good mood, and I was like, "All right, this is my chance out. I'm not doing this, mate." But you were so kind in response that I thought I was a piece of shit, and I thought I have to do it now. We all have their moments, don't we?
Yeah, it was pretty funny this morning. Fucking, my gas ran out on me bottle to have a shower, so I had to have a cold shower, and I was trying to figure out how to fucking click the button, mate. I got no idea. My mum had to
Mate,
come and save my dad.
I grew up with no hot. Well, we had an urn, a copper urn in our bathroom as a kid, and I
Yeah,
used to wet the bed every night, and so I used to have cold showers every morning before school when I used to live on the Central Coast. So I feel you, mate. Like I still struggle with showers too. It's a long story. It's part of my trauma, but I don't like being in showers. I'm frightened of showers, and I
mm,
feel vulnerable. That's the better word. I feel vulnerable in a shower. And even to this age, at 56, I still feel it. In prison, it was funny. I used to play touch football and I'd leave the game early just so I could get back and have my shower before the other guys shower because I just didn't want to do it. I just always felt vulnerable in evolutions or toilets or showers.
Yeah.
But anyway, I have to go. Thank you so much for having a chat with me, guys. Make sure you follow him. About Time for Justice on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Insta, and anywhere else that I've forgotten.
Thanks, brother. Good luck tonight.
Cheers, mate. I appreciate you. I'm setting this up as I'm doing that, actually.
All right, mate. Thank you.
Cheers, mate.
Bye-bye.
Oh, God, like you, I don't know how to end it.